What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka Unique Mazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming. I am a fight guy. I'm a Forbes contributor and also write for Heavy.com. And I am here with my fellow fight guy, fellow Forbes contributor and boxing manager of the year candidate nominee. He likes both names. Peter Kahn. What's going on today, Pete? How you feel?
I feel great. Ready for a great show. It's a brand new week and ready to get into it.
All right, man. And now we have to remember that we are powered by FITE TV, or you have to remember, powered by FITE TV and presented by Bet Online. If you are watching this on FITE TV, make sure you go over to YouTube and you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's right there on the screen. Click that subscribe button. And also don't forget to click the notifications button as well. So you can see all of the individual segments for the Fight Guys there, as well as some breakout videos that we do on stuff that is not actually a part of the full length show. If you do happen to see us on YouTube, make sure you head over to FITE TV and also subscribe there to that app for an entirely different set of combat sports entertainment. So now let's go ahead and head right into round one. Right now with round one, let's talk about some fights that we would like to see when boxing returns, because obviously we're all sitting here waiting on boxing to return.
Right.
Got a good idea that it might be happening sometime soon. And I'd like to say, I do think that Vince McMahon and Dana White deserve some credit for kind of paving the way and kind of kicking down some doors there in Florida, maybe doing some stuff that other people, other promoters weren't really willing to do at the time, but they did it. We don't know exactly what these dates are, but I'm going to say one of the fights that I think I would love to see, and we were talking about this in regards to Jermell Charlo moving up to 168, fighting David Benavidez, which I think would still be a very cool fight. But, you know, I think he's at a situation at 160, right, where he's kind of like some options, or he's running out of options, and maybe that's why the whole 168 talk even started. But what about putting him in the ring with somebody at 160 who is somewhat in a similar situation, kind of an avoided fighter, people that, you know, a guy who is really good, who hasn't really, you know, it's tough for him to get these options. And I'm talking about Sergey Derevyanchenko. And Derevyanchenko gave Danny Jacobs a great fight, gave Golovkin a great fight. Some people think he beat him. What do you think about that fight, Charlo and Derevyanchenko?
Look, I think it's a great fight. I think that it's a matchup where, to be honest with you, I give that a 50-50 fight. I mean, let's really look at it. Derevyanchenko lost a split decision to Danny Jacobs. He lost the decision to Triple G, and you can make the argument that he won. I was at that fight. I thought he won. The flash knockdown early might have cost him the fight with the judges, but I thought he won that fight. I thought he gave Triple G a much tougher fight than Canelo did. And I think that when you look at, you know, he's 13-2. He's made the most money for any middleweight that's never won a world title. I think he's netted close to like $7 million. So that's a victory in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have made more money than Charlo.
May have.
With 2 losses. Okay.
Yeah, and you know how I feel about that. Well,
listen, you know, you make your bed, you got to lay in it. You know, you pick the route you want to go, and you have to live with that. So, you know, Derevyanchenko's made good choices. He has a really good manager, Keith Connolly. And I think that he is a guy that would give, you know, look, if Charlo wants to put an exclamation mark on, you know, before leaving the middleweight division, and I know people are going to go, what do you mean an exclamation mark? He's fighting a guy with 2 losses that lost to Jacobs and lost to Triple G. Yeah, but it's here's the deal. If nobody else is fighting him, then this is the best option before moving up in weight.
And, you know, the other thing is, we might talk about, you know, him, you know, Derevyanchenko having 2 losses, but I don't think anybody can dispute that Derevyanchenko's probably, and with all due respect to a fighter that you manage, Derevyanchenko's probably a better fighter than every other fighter that Charlo's faced already. So regardless of the 2 losses, this is still a step up in competition for who Charlo has faced up to this point.
Right.
So this goes back to what we were talking about, how, you know, the losses on someone's record can kind of be overblown. Derevianchenko has two of the most respectable kinds of losses that you can have in the game right now. Danny Jacobs is a heck of a fighter. Like you said, almost beat or really did really well against Golovkin. Then Derevianchenko fought Golovkin, and some people felt that he won that fight. So this is a great fight for Charlo if this would ever happen. Obviously, we're just talking, but I think it would be a fantastic fight if it does take place. Now, also remember, you guys, I said it before, if you dig this content and you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button now, click that like and share button as well. Let's move on to the second fight, another fight that I would love to see take place once boxing returns. And it's another one of those matchups that's kind of like guys in between, guys looking for somebody to fight and are having a hard time getting this matchup. And this one makes sense from a promotion and a network standpoint. Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, current champion right now at 160, chasing people down the street like the bully in the neighborhood, and everybody's crossing the street. They're crossing the street. Nobody wants to fight Demetrius Andrade. They won't even say his name. Another guy having a problem getting a fight is actually a weight class above him, is Callum Smith, holds the title at 168. Now, Demetrius Andrade has already talked about, he told us that he, in an interview that we did with him, that he'd go up to 168 if it meant getting good fights. Why don't we see Callum Smith and Demetrius Andrade lock horns? What do you think about that fight?
I mean, there's no impediments promotionally. They're both promoted by Matchroom. They're both fighting on DAZN. So there's no obstacle there. I think that in order for Andrade to get the big fights that he's looking for, he's going to have to move up in weight. So if he's still going to chase Canelo, he's going to have to move up in weight. I don't imagine a Triple G fight being on the horizon for him, simply because I just don't think Triple G has a ton of fights left in him. And I don't know what his contract, how many fights it was for with DAZN. But, you know, regardless, he's 2 fights in. Canelo would be 3 fights in. If it's a 5-fight deal, well, you know, if he beats Canelo, well, he's back on top of the world. They might fight a 4th fight. If he loses to Canelo, he could have one last-ditch effort to fight and win a world title, and maybe that could be against Andrade. But, you know, I'm just giving a lot of these different scenarios. Going back to what you said, though, about Andrade, moving up to fight Callum Smith seems like a reasonable idea. It gives Andrade the opportunity. Look, he has the size. He has the height and the frame to go to 68. So that's not an issue. He has the reach, the height, the frame. He's a difficult guy to fight. I think at 68, he would give him an opportunity to win a world title in a 3rd weight division. But Andrade has to be one of those most underrated, under talked about champions that could end up going through an entire career under the radar. So I do think a fight like him and Smith would be exciting. I certainly want to watch it. I'm curious to know what our viewers think.
Yeah, you know, what I think, here's the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it like he's got to take a chance. And fighting Callum Smith is a huge chance, because Callum Smith is not that major payday that he's looking for, obviously, if he would fight Golovkin or Canelo. But how much more difficult would it be for them to continue to avoid him if he beats Callum Smith? Also, on the same token, and on the flip side, how much more difficult would it be for people to avoid Callum Smith if he beats Demetrius Andrade? So I think both guys have something to gain. They're both in a similar situation, excellent top-notch fighters who people are avoiding and not even giving the opportunity for them to prove themselves. So the best way for them probably to prove themselves is to fight each other. That's the way I kind of see that. So as I mentioned, as we continue to roll through these fights that you may want to see, or that we definitely want to see, you cannot forget, if you are watching this on YouTube and you want to see more boxing, MMA, combat sports content, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and make sure you click that notifications bell so that you'll know when new videos go up. All right, our last fight that I think would be outstanding to see once boxing returns is, and this one's another one that is totally makeable. Totally makeable. And actually, as a matter of fact, I believe it's been, discussed. Is Oscar Valdez against Miguel Burkelt. I know that there has been a bit of, it seems like there was some talk around it actually happening once, boxing returns, but there's a little bit of some difficulty there. You may be able to speak a little bit closer to what might be happening there.
Sure. So that fight was going to happen. I was at Oscar Valdez's last fight. It was during Thanksgiving week in Las Vegas at the Cosmopolitan. And he fought Adam Lopez.
Yes.
Because Gutierrez came in about 60 pounds overweight. Yeah.
He came in, he had Jarrell Big Baby Miller's diet.
Worse. I think this was the worst weight miss ever.
You know what? Oh my God. I wish I'd known you were going to say that, because we would have had to pull up Bob Arum's diatribe.
Well, I was there. He said, get him out of the hotel. He kicked him out of the hotel.
Yes.
I was there. He kicked him out of the hotel. Yeah. So to that point, what I'm saying is that Valdez then fought Adam Lopez.
Yes,
who gave him a good fight.
Adam Lopez made a really good representation of himself.
Yes, very good fight. And Top Rank promised him, aside from giving him a nice big bump in his pay, promised him win or lose, they wouldn't release him.
Yeah.
So anyway, the idea was that Burchelt was then going to fight Valdez. That fight was all but made.
Yeah, because Burchelt was there as well.
He was.
Yeah.
And that fight was up next. But here's I don't even remember the last time Burchelt fought. I mean, and I've been at all of his fights, but I just don't remember. I mean, it's been a while.
The last Burchelt fight was, I think it was like 2 or 3 months before that fight. So he's now, I think, been sitting for a minute. That fight, his last fight was against Jason Sosa in November.
Right. So, okay. So they fought around the same time. So I take that back. Okay. So they fought around the same time. But what I'm saying is, was that November 9th in California?
It was in... No. It was not. Let me see. I'll tell you. It was November 2nd. Yeah, it was in California. It was in Carson.
Right. So what I'm saying is that Valdez and might, at this point, depending on how quickly boxing comes back, might jump right back into that. But they also might want to take a fight to stay busy before that, especially if they're given an option to wait until crowds come back or to fight a tune-up in front of no audience, and then that opens up a lot of I mean, look, Burchelt really doesn't want to be defending his title in front of no crowd, especially at 130 pounds. I just think it's a tough. I mean, it's a lose-lose for Top Rank, meaning they just have to depend 100% on television money, on rights fees, and they lose out. That's the type of fight you want fans at. That's the type of fight that you want these Mexican fans to come out and support. I just think that it's one of those fights that needs to be in front of a live audience.
So that's interesting though, because I've heard Bob reference, feeling as though a fight between Crawford and Porter is like the kind of fight that absolutely positively has to take place in front of a live crowd. Right. So we know that Crawford Porter is a tier above Burchelt Valdez. We know that, right? It's from every standpoint, for the most part, right? So if Crawford Porter, if a fight on that tier has to take place in front of a live audience, if you go down a peg, which is what Valdez Burchelt is, and then you suggest that one also has to take place in front of a live audience, what level of fight is suitable for not having a live audience? Because now I'm wondering what is the real quality of fights that I mean, and I'm not 100% sure that I agree with that. I kind of feel like Valdez Burchelt is the kind of fight that would be good to go in a studio audience, because it is a legitimate, awesome unification style world championship fight, but it isn't a major name that is commanding pay-per-view and is killing it with a live gate. So I feel like that is the kind of fight that would work, but it seems like you're going from the other direction.
Look, it's just my opinion, because I've been to two of Burchell's most recent fights, and one, I guess, is it Mickey Roman? Right.
Mickey Roman, yeah.
So I was at that fight. I guess
that was the one before Sosa.
Right, and and that crowd was electric, and it was packed. And that one might have been the one in El Paso. That was in El Paso. So we were in El Paso. That fight,
actually, Francisco Vargas rematch was right before Sosa, and then Miguel Roman was a fight right before that.
In El Paso, right?
It was in El Paso. That was November of 2018.
Right, because Burchell is from, I guess, Juarez, which is, right there just across the way from El Paso. And so I think that the fans came in. There's just something about having a fight in that electric atmosphere where you're going to sell tickets and you can take advantage of that live gate to offset costs of putting on a show. But I do understand what you're saying. If there was a world title fight that maybe you can get away with without an audience, this maybe could be considered one of them, depending on what you have to pay the fighters. And I think you'd be giving the viewing audience a treat as well, because they'd be getting a world title fight. They'd be getting a really good fight, a very compelling matchup, and they wouldn't have to wait for arenas to open back up again, that are allowing fans.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see, but it's an interesting concept either way. But let's go ahead and move on to our first Between the. We're going to talk about Oscar De La Hoya, and we talked a little bit about quarantine crazy in our last episode, and how being in quarantine has got people just talking more. I think they're just talking more. Well, maybe they're not talking more. Maybe it's that the media, which obviously we're part of, are kind of accentuating everything because there's no actual in-ring action. But at any rate, Oscar De La Hoya recently appeared on the CBS podcast with Brian Campbell. And he made some comments talking about a potential fight with Conor McGregor. And I'm going to, go over exactly what he said here. Oscar says 2 rounds. He's talking about what would happen if he fought Conor McGregor. He said 2 rounds. Come on, brother. 2 rounds. That's all it's going to take. Because one thing about me, I went for the kill always. And look, Conor McGregor, I love him in the octagon. I respect him. I watch him all the time. But the boxing ring is in a whole different story. It's a whole different story. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to that in championship rounds. But while I'm almost embarrassed to admit that I would actually like to see what that would look like, I'm embarrassed. I am a little bit embarrassed to say, because it's more of a farce than Mayweather McGregor, which I also consider to be a farce. But I also was somewhat interested in watching, and I did.
And you gave me a hard time for what we talked about, which we're not going to talk about here, but you gave me a hard time before we went live, what I was talking about to you. But this intrigues you.
Yes, it's intrigues me, and I don't know why. Right. I don't know why it does.
I'll respond in the championship round.
I don't know why it intrigues me, but for some reason, I want to see.
Okay.
If Oscar you know what it would tell me? You know why I want to see it? Because it would truly tell me how significant the gap is between where McGregor is as a boxer and the overall the profession, somebody who does this, who has done this, or who did this at a high level. Obviously, we know De La Hoya hasn't fought for I don't know how long, and he's obviously not in anywhere near the physical condition that he was when he fought. But if he can say, I've been training secretly since 2017 to try to stay in shape, and climb in the ring and still outclass McGregor, that to me says something significant about we should be able to stop all of the conversations moving forward about a mixed martial artist stepping in the ring with a boxer of any level, fighting under boxing rules and having any shot at being competitive. Maybe I just answered my own question. I don't know, but I still can't wait to hear what you say. And you guys, Peter's going to give his response, but you really got to make sure that you subscribe. Click that subscribe button on YouTube right now, as well as the share button. All right, let's move on to round 2. We are going to be talking about UFC 249. Now, this card is being billed right now as the greatest card in UFC history.
From top to bottom.
From top to bottom. Now, I will tell you, this is a fantastic card, but I would have to also say that I think that's being a little bit overblown, and we're taking advantage of the fact that
who's billing it that way?
Obviously, you know who's billing it that way. The UFC is calling.
Okay, well, they want people to tune in.
They want people to, and I don't blame them. Obviously, right. I don't blame them.
Who's going to say this isn't a very good card?
Well, but here's the thing. The reason why it's even worth discussing is because it is a really freaking good card. Which
you've been saying since it was announced.
Right. So
before they made some changes.
Right. But it warrants. Now, it did lose something because Amanda Nunes is not on the card anymore. But it warrants some examination to the validity of this claim, because it is actually good enough to not completely dismiss that concept.
Was she on the original card, the one that was going to possibly take place in California?
I don't think she was on that card. This thing has changed so many times.
Okay.
At one point, Rose Namajunas was on the card in the rematch with Jessica Andrade.
Which you love that fight.
I love that fight. That got wiped because unfortunately Rose experienced multiple deaths in her family due to COVID-19. So she was pulled off the card, or she removed herself from the card. The Amanda Nunes removal, that was an entirely different situation. She was set to, it's a lot going on. So as it is right now, the early prelims are good enough to be mid-level prelims on most cards. Ryan Spann against Sam Alvey, Bryce Mitchell against Charles Rosa, Vicente Luque against Nico Price. I'm going to actually go over and preview and give my predictions. We're going to give the odds courtesy of Bet Online for each one of these bouts. We're going to do that in separate videos. As I mentioned, you need to make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube so you can see those as separate breakout videos.
And to that point, for those out there that are going to put some action, number one, Brian's usually spot on. Number two, Bet Online has the best odds, including all the prop bets for this card as well. So you're going to want to check those breakout videos, because you're going to get some value there. Instead of just sitting home watching the fights, now you'll be able to have some action on there as well.
Absolutely. And so then when you go into those mid-level prelims, then that's when you really start to see the overall value of the card. Uriah Hall against Jacare, Carla Esparza against Michelle Watterson, Alexei Olenek, who actually lives out by you, against Fabricio Verdum, Anthony Pettis against Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone.
Is he training American Top Team?
I believe so. Honestly, I think I'm pretty positive his daughter goes to school out, unfortunately, at Parkland. So
really,
That's
so my son was there during that. So
during that time. So his daughter goes to the school there. So that's why I said he's out there by you.
Sure.
And then the main card is insane. Greg Hardy against Jorgen De Castro, Jeremy Stevens against Calvin Kattar. We got Francis Ngannou against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Henry Cejudo against Dominic Cruz, and then you top it off with Tony Ferguson against Justin Gaethje. This is a sick card, just absolutely bananas. But I cannot say that this is better than, if you got to go back so not that far, but you got to go back a few, I think it's 2 years. If you take a look at, it is UFC 217, headlined by Georges St. Pierre against Michael Bisping.
Right.
I got to say that's still the best card. I got to just go over some of the people that are on this card. That's the main event. So we saw Georges St. Pierre win the middleweight title.
Right.
We saw TJ Dillashaw defeat Cody Garbrandt in the co-main event in just a fire fight. Rose Namajunas defeated Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Sure.
So we had 3 world title fights there, but it doesn't even stop there. We also saw Stephen Wonderboy Thompson defeat Jorge Masvidal on that card. Paulo Costa knocks out Johnny Hendricks. We got James Vick, Joseph Duffy, Mark Godbeer against Walt Harris, Ovin St. Preux against Corey Anderson, Randy Brown beats Mickey Gall, Curtis Blades actually beat Alexei Olenek. So Alexei Olenek was on that card as well. And then you have Ayman Zahabi losing to Ricardo Ramos. There really was no dead spot from a overall standpoint for UFC 217. So if you ask me, UFC 217 is still the standard bearer for the top cards, but UFC 249 is definitely doing a really solid job bringing mixed martial arts and combat sports back to people overall. So.
Well, Brian, when you have, you know, the majority of the top mixed martial artists in the world under contract, you can make these great fights. It's really in Dana White's, you know, decision-making wheelhouse to say, you know what, I'm just going to stack this card. And I'm sure he sits back and says, man, I could really stack this card, but you know what, let me pull back and let me save these 2 fights for this card, you know, trying to kind of level it out. So have consistently great fights. Because look, we've seen boxing, Matt, we've seen cards where they've been less than we've seen a show where it's very top heavy.
Yeah. Charles Martin and Gerald
Stop
Washington.
it. I was thinking that. I wasn't going to say it because I don't like to insult anybody, but I was thinking that was the co-feature for Wilder Fury too. But here's the thing, and no knock on them, but they also have to understand that when we're talking from star power, what the UFC is doing in this show is they're basically now, considering they're doing 3 shows in a week, okay, they're throwing as much as they can to keep people, you know, get people excited that they're back, and really get them tuned in, get as many eyeballs there as possible, because a card like this could probably have warranted, you know, 10 to 15,000 people in an arena.
Yeah. Easy. They could have sold out more than that. They could have sold out like a football stadium in the right country with this card for sure. So yeah, that goes. And
I'm looking forward to seeing your picks. You know, got to do Unique Mazique's best bets.
I got to do it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our next between the rounds. All right, so a couple weeks ago, we talked about the biggest overachievers. We could not agree. You kept talking about, you know, you told me that Paulie wasn't an overachiever.
Right.
Said he was just an achiever. We agree to disagree with that because you're wrong. I mean, but we'll agree to disagree on that. But let's talk about the biggest underachievers. You know, guys who had it. They had something. But for whatever reason, maybe it was something outside of their control. Maybe it was something within their control. Maybe it was just whatever, but they didn't quite get to the level that they probably could have gotten to. So I'm going to start it off. Okay. I'm going to throw you a name out. Okay. And you throw me one, and then we'll go until we don't have anybody else left.
Oh boy. This might take me a minute though, but you know.
That's why I said I'll start it off.
Okay.
First guy on my list, Ike Abeabuchi.
Do I get to rebut or?
Yeah, I will. Actually, no. Wait, no. You know what? This is a between the rounds. So here's what I'll do. I'll throw one out, and then you throw one out, and then in the championship rounds, you rebut mine, and I'll rebut yours.
Fine. Okay.
All right.
So
you
said Ike.
I'm going to go Ike Abeabuchi. And here's what I say about that.
You can't say anything about it.
No, I'm throwing it out, and I'm going to tell you why I feel that way.
Got it.
So Ike Abeabuchi is kind of so for anybody that doesn't know who he is, he's a Nigerian former heavyweight. In the mid to late 90s, he was really establishing himself as, you know, a serious player in the division. 20-0, 15 knockouts. His last fight was actually in 1999. He scored a TKO victory over Chris Bird in Tacoma, Washington. And, you know, before that, he won the unanimous decision over David Tua. He had obviously some solid wins on his record. Many people, I want to say I've heard even Lou DiBella mention this before, that they 100% believe that Ike Abeabuchi was a future world champion. But he had some mental health issues and ended up having some legal problems and that sort of thing, and never got there. And in my opinion, from what I saw of Ika Ibeabuchi, and I will admit, I think I've only seen him fight 4 or 5 times.
Right.
It's definitely the tour fight I saw. And then obviously the last fight against Chris Bird, which for me was extremely impressive because Chris Bird was a nightmare matchup for a lot of heavyweights.
Right.
He's my guy.
Okay.
For the off the top of my head is the biggest underachiever. And it's no knock on him because mental health issues is a serious deal. So people can be dismissive if they want to, that was on him. You don't know everybody's story. And I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say based off of his talent level and the trek that he was on for it to have topped out at 20-0, 15 knockouts without ever getting a world title fight. That's a massive underachievement.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
I want to know yours.
The first one that comes to mind for me is Ricardo Williams.
Okay.
Silver medalist, 2000 Olympic Games.
Yep.
Was touted as the future star in the sport.
Yes.
I believe from Ohio.
I don't know if he's from Ohio. I got to check.
Maybe Detroit. Maybe he's either from Detroit or Ohio. I don't remember. Touted the future of the sport.
Ohio, Cincinnati.
Since I was right. Okay. First time. Touted the future of the sport. And
Slicky Ricky
just didn't live up to the expectations. Whatever the reasons why, whatever, we're talking about underachiever. There are guys that come out of the Olympics with a medal, like Errol Spence Jr., and they go on to reach their potential. There are guys that come out of the Olympics, silver medal, and are literally touted as the best fighter of the Olympic Games across all weight classes, and is underwhelming as a professional. So I'm going with Ricardo Williams.
I can't, that's tough to argue with. I mean, he,
well, you got to save it for the championship rounds. Otherwise we're going to have,
right.
But why don't we do this? Why don't we start trying to do this each week? Although, I don't want to be, do you have more that you want to get into now?
No, I don't have any more that I can get into now, but definitely that's something to me because there's a list. There's a list. So we definitely will get into that a little bit more. But yes, I would.
But I can rebut Ike. You could rebut Ricardo, or you could agree. We don't have to rebut.
Right.
You could agree.
Rebut doesn't have to be a disagreement. It's just a response. So
but I also want to know what fans think. I want to know what the viewers think.
I really want to know what you guys think about Ricardo Williams.
Or throw some names out there.
Throw some names out, and then maybe we can address those in future episodes of biggest underachievers and biggest overachievers. But now let's go into round 3. Ask the Fight Guys. Make sure you are using this hashtag whenever you have something that you want to throw out at us. Also, do not forget to make sure that you are subscribed to the Fight Guys on YouTube. And, make sure you also click the notifications bell as well. All right. So our first Ask the Fight Guys. This one comes from Bien Balahadia. I'm hoping that I pronounced that correctly. And he is obviously a Manny Pacquiao fan, like many of us are. But he says, why do people keep comparing Pacquiao to ordinary people? I almost started singing John Legend right then. I almost did, but I
don't do it.
I refrained. Even under quarantine, he still gets his workouts in. It's his way of life. Not just when I feel like I'm narrating the audiobook. It's his way of life, not just when he has a fight scheduled. Training camps for him is for strategies, not to get fit. I just want you to know that, Pete, because I know you've never been to a Pacquiao training camp before.
Right.
Manny is always fit and ready to fight 365 days a year. Laugh out loud. Okay. All right.
What's his point?
Well, his point was this, because we were having a conversation about how how COVID-19 could jeopardize Manny's career.
Right.
And so we were drawing all these real life parallels.
Right.
And it's clear Bien Balahadia doesn't think that Manny's a normal human being.
Okay.
So he's not such.
He might be right.
Manny's not a normal human being. Manny is.
But who's disputing that? Like, what's the dispute?
Well, he's saying that we don't have a right to apply human level restrictions to Manny.
But what would that have to do with this potentially KOing what's
Because
left
the
of his
thing of
career?
it is that it might KO the career of a normal man, but not Manny Pacquiao.
Oh, okay.
That's what his point is. Manny's not a normal man. So
by Manny working out and staying in shape and the time off doesn't change anything?
Are you sassing, Ben?
I am. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, because look, I don't understand his point. What's the point? Yeah, Manny's working out. He's staying in shape. A lot of guys are. So what's the point?
You know Ben Balahadia will come down there and give you a leaping Manny left hook. Don't you sass him?
But he ends it with LOL. I mean, yes. Who is this guy?
He's Ben Balahadia is who he is.
But I don't get it.
Okay. Well, I don't either. I'm just trying to
okay. You don't get it, do you?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Manny is a spectacular athlete.
Right.
It's just almost like a totally unprecedented athlete. He is. But as I think if I remember correctly, I responded to this comment in the actual comment section, and I said, all of those things you're saying are correct, but still to this day, the only undefeated opponent is Father Time.
Right.
And not even Manny Pacquiao can overcome
you fight long enough, you're gonna lose. Well, and he's lost, but it's not so much lose. And that's the funny thing about it.
Yes.
We weren't even talking about wins and losses.
No.
We're just talking about the viability of what's next for him, and is he going to be able to go out on his own terms?
Exactly.
You know, it was more so, how does this end for him?
I've never seen a fighter who has lost as much as Manny, who is still viewed as just, unbeatable.
When you win world titles in 8 weight classes, you're going to lose along the way.
And I know that, and I'm not taking anything from Manny, but it's just so odd that when you suggest Manny could lose, or when you suggest that Manny has any level of weakness, his fan base responds in this way that is like totally ignoring the fact that he has already actually lost before. More than once.
And once again, losses are acceptable.
And losses are acceptable, but
the UFC has superstars.
They're also permissible.
Yeah.
So, so if somebody mentions one, you can't go, oh, surely you just Manny shall not lose. You
remember,
cannot
only boxing created the idea that you had to have these guys with these unblemished records fighting each other to constitute a mega fight.
I totally understand that. That's what I'm saying is, it's like, yes, he's lost, and there's no shame in that.
Right.
So if I suggest that he could lose again, you should not be shocked.
Yeah, that was a terrible question, by the way. We appreciate it. Ask the Fight Guys. Use the hashtag Ask the Fight Guys. It was a horrible question, finished with an LOL.
Right.
Well, but I appreciate you watching.
It really wasn't a question. It was a comment, but it kind of was a question.
He didn't really ask. Well, he did.
He said, why do people keep comparing Pacquiao to ordinary people? That's so he did say that. All right. So let's go to the next question. This one comes from Crazy Steve. Crazy Steve. And this is a UFC thing.
Okay,
he says, so many unknowns with Cruz. Hard to put money on him. Now, I should preface this by saying he's talking about my predictions and how I identified Dominic Cruz as a potential positive bet or a good bet as an underdog. So he says that it's hard to put money on him. If I were Cejudo's coaches, I'd make him drill thousands of leg kicks and just try to destroy Cruz's mobility and test those battle-worn legs. TJ has had a lot of success with leg kicks in title fight years ago after the first big layoff, and I can't imagine his legs are much better now. Also, Cejudo has straight punches and is quick at blitzing, which would work well against Cruz's awkward punching and footwork. I still think Cruz in his prime form would beat him, though. So I can see why the bet is tempting. Just can't do it. LOL. It's an LOL kind of day.
Man, a lot of LOLs. But I think so look, right off the bat, they got to understand that when we pick someone, or and he was talking about from a sports betting perspective when you said there's good line value. And when there's good line value, and when you live at that intersection of good line value, giving you guys a sports betting lesson right now, the intersection of good line value
Right.
and probability.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the stock market.
Right.
When there's, what were the odds? What did Bet Online have him at? Plus what?
Bet Online, I believe it was 225, but I'm going to confirm that.
Plus 225, right?
Let me see. Actually, yeah, no, honestly, Dominic Cruz is plus 190. He might have been plus 225 at the time.
Sure. So when you gave it out,
now.
right. Well, that only means more money's coming in on him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would you rate the probability of victory based on what you had expressed, based on if he can do this, if he can execute the way that you expressed he would need to execute, what do you rate the probability of winning?
If Dominic is Dominic, he has a 50% chance to win. Okay,
so it's a 50-50 chance to win, where you can bet $100 to make 190. All right, well, look, you know what? It's the risk reward
it might even
factor.
Be higher than 50, honestly.
Okay, so from a sports betting perspective, the risk reward is worth the reward is worth the risk on this. Now, me personally, if you told me, well, he has a 70% chance or greater of pulling the upset, I'd say, okay, well, it's a no-brainer. But even a 50-50 for an underdog means that the odds makers got it wrong. Because if you're telling me that if he goes out there and performs to his abilities, then the fight should be even money.
Right. Oh,
but it's not even money.
I'm telling you, the only
you can make 190 on $100 bet. That's
right.
Good
I'm telling
value.
you the only
LOL.
Reason, right. The only reason that Cejudo is the favorite, I believe, is because of the questions of what state is Dominic Cruz in. That's the only reason. I think
he'll be in Florida.
You're the funniest man on this show.
You're better than being the funniest looking.
Well, hey, I'm sexy.
So look, if his state of mind, and you know it, if his state of mind is what you say you think it is, right, or could be, then
not state of mind. It's more. Nobody worries about Dominic Cruz's mindset.
So
it's about
physical state, performance state.
He's had terrible knee injuries over and over and over again, and this will be his first fight back after a knee injury.
But all seriousness, if you're telling me that it's on the greater side of 50-50, he pulls an upset, then what that's telling me is that the odds should be even money, that it's 50% chance he wins. So plus 190, which is down, like you said, from plus 225, which means there is money coming in on him for them to adjust the lines.
Yes. I just think it's possible. I think it's very possible. And if he's right, I think it will happen. So we'll see. That's something we'll see. We'll have to watch that to find out. So that was cool. Very cool. Ask the Fight, guys. It is now time for us to dip into the championship rounds.
So I get to jump in here, right? About Oscar.
Yes.
I like Oscar personally. My business dealings with Oscar, I've known him a long time. My business dealings with Golden Boy have been positive. Regardless of, what other people's look, everyone in boxing has had good and bad experiences with everybody. Okay. But all in all, they do what they say they're going to do. And that's important to me. Okay. And I'm laying some groundwork here. But there are times when Oscar does say things which I find to be a little bit out there. And when Oscar De La Hoya was fighting, he was the best. In his prime, he was the best. Wasn't he pound for pound best during his prime? He was definitely in the conversation.
Obviously that's a title that is arguable and not.
But I believe at times
he was in the conversation.
Well, he had a long career, but I'm saying in the sweet spot of his prime. I think at times he was him and Roy and
him and Shane,
him and Roy.
What hurt Oscar in that conversation, which is not even really relevant to what we're talking about here, is the painful. And I also think unwarranted majority decision loss to Felix Trinidad.
Okay, but look, but you know what I'm saying is this: those days are long gone.
Oh, absolutely.
How old is Conor McGregor?
Conor is 31 or 32, I think.
Is he that young? My God, he looks a lot older.
Yeah, he does. He's not in his mid-30s. He's 31. 31. He'll be 32.
31 in years
July.
old. Oscar must be my age. Must be 48. Must be 48. I'm not joking. He must be. What are you laughing at?
You sounded like somebody's dad when you said that.
He must be 48.
He is 47. He just turned 47 on February 4th.
Right. Okay. So my point being, I don't care. Yes, Oscar is a better boxer, more technically sound, et cetera, but the 16-year age gap and inactivity and wear and tear of life, I don't even know why he would say it, because he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the money. You know, from what I understand, Oscar's done very well.
So you're like standing off on the side while he's doing this interview, and you go, Oscar, why would you say that?
But I don't even. I would understand if Oscar was a destitute guy, but he's not. From what I understand, he's made really good investments. He owns a lot of property, both commercial and personal. You know, like I don't understand. His company is doing well. They have arguably the biggest name in the sport. So, you know, it's not like he needs a few extra bucks to fight Conor McGregor, nor is it even reasonable from an age standpoint. None of it.
I just see.
I don't even know where to. I don't even know where to.
It's absolutely stupid, but for whatever reason, I know I'd watch it, and I know I'd want to see. I'd want to see if 47-year-old Oscar De La Hoya.
You know what? You're making an argument that, and I hear what you're saying, because you just would love. Why don't they just have a sparring session? And if that sparring session is competitive, then we can have an answer. Why would anyone need to build a fight around it?
Can't have the same cameraman that was there for the Malinaji McGregor camp, because we know it'll be cut up.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, is this just Oscar and Dana's ongoing?
Well, he was actually pretty complimentary of Dana recently, which is one of the first times I've heard him say something nice about Dana in a long time. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just,
could we all agree in the comment section?
No,
that we wouldn't want to see this fight. Like, can we all agree that Oscar is not going to handle Conor McGregor in 2 rounds?
Well, okay. Oh, so let me ask you this: he's not going to handle him in 2 rounds. Do you think he beats him?
In what? In boxing? I mean, are we doing like 3-minute rounds?
In a potato sack race. In a relay.
I don't know what to tell you.
Oh my God. Oh, no. Yes, in boxing. What do you think I'm talking about?
How many rounds?
In NBA 2K.
How many rounds? Are you actually talking to me about a 10-round boxing match?
Yeah, a 10-round boxing match. Is that how you're gonna do it? Is that why you give me the constipated look? You know who you look like when you do that? When you just did that face, you look like the Quaker Oats man.
If Oscar De La Hoya at 31 years old fought Conor McGregor, and maybe this is what Oscar means, the 31-year-old Oscar De La Hoya against the 31-year-old Conor McGregor, Conor McGregor doesn't make it out of the 1st or 2nd round.
No, that's not what he meant. He meant like Saturday. He meant Saturday. You bring your gloves, you bring your shoes, and I beat the brakes off you in 6 minutes or less. That's what he meant.
Okay.
Hey, I'm here for it.
Okay.
As the kids would say, you love to see it.
You know, it's like Roy fighting that guy in Russia. It just was unnecessary.
No, it's not. Because you know why? Because it's that guy in Russia. You don't even know his name. This is Conor McGregor. So which makes it more interesting. If Oscar De La Hoya was just talking about fighting some guy in Russia, then I wouldn't care. Well, I might a little bit, but I probably wouldn't care the same way. But
why are we having this conversation?
Because Oscar said it, man.
It's just like there's a point where just like in my head, I'm like, why are we talking about that?
Because Oscar said it.
Okay.
I showed you what he said.
I know. Yes. It's hard for me to comment. It's hard for me to comment only because
first it was Bien Balahadia you were disrespecting. Now it's Oscar.
LOL.
LOL. Okay. All right.
Who am I disrespecting?
You just disrespected Oscar.
It is kind of silly.
Okay.
I don't think he meant it for real.
I think it was. I think if
Oscar De La Hoya is one of the greatest fighters in, so he's definitely one of the.
When has that stopped people from doing stupid stuff?
Well, anyway.
Okay.
I mean, look. I mean, you're making me think about this.
I know, and I'm looking at.
But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. So, how old was George Foreman when he beat Michael Moore? 43 or 45?
45, I feel. Yeah, 45.
Was he?
Feels like 45. Let me
double. Really?
Let me double. Feels like 45. I feel like 45 is. I'm surprised you don't know because I know you and
Stop
Michael.
It. I know. Zip it.
What? I thought you're close.
Michael was at my wedding.
Yeah, y'all were close.
Can't dance.
That's okay. Everybody
for Southpaw heavyweight.
He was 45.
Okay.
He was born in 1949.
Maybe
in Marshall, Texas.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe there is. Maybe there is something there.
Maybe it is.
Because technically,
because Kahn and McGregor's not the boxer that Michael Moore, is or was. I mean, or was.
Yeah, but George also had that. George. All right, look, who knows? Let's just see it. Let's get Oscar in the camp. Let's just do it.
Let's get him back up.
We're gonna get. You know what? Hey,
take him up there to Big Bear.
I'm gonna call Bet Online. Make them put odds up before the end of the day.
And you know what? That might get Oscar's juices flowing.
Who promotes the show? Is it a Golden Boy UFC co-promotion?
Oh my God! You just killed the whole thing there.
Just asking.
Because Dana White.
Hey, that's the next impediment to the whole thing. So there you go. That's
Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya having the
Oscar who?
Oscar De La Hoya having the.
That's not what Dana calls him.
I know it's horrible.
Don't say it.
Yeah, I won't.
It's blasphemy.
It's worse than what you've been doing to Bien Balahadia all this show. LOL. All right, so let's move. Yeah, let's
championship rounds.
Because you're terrible. Next championship round, Ike Ibeabuchi. What say you?
So, I would say this. We're talking about underachieving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I absolutely think he was achieving until he went to prison. Okay. I don't think going to prison means you underachieved.
What?
You didn't have the opportunity.
You high? What are you talking about?
I think your voice just went too high. But listen to me. Underachieving. Is when you actually have the opportunity to see your career through and it never becomes what it should have been.
Don't you think that it's a bunch of people in jail doing that?
What I'm saying is this, and I'll put it this way, okay? And I mean this. If he would have continued down the path of being able to fight, he would have been a heavyweight champion.
Exactly.
But he didn't get to.
Exactly.
Ricardo Williams had an opportunity to do it. Ricardo Williams had an opportunity to do it, but he just didn't happen. You just
defined underachievement.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you He said, no, I didn't.
No,
I did not.
Ike Ibeabuchi never had the opportunity to show us the rest of his potential. That's all I'm saying.
I prefaced the whole concept by saying it doesn't matter what stopped you. I'm saying you didn't get there. It's an underachievement.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
As an example.
Uh-huh.
Did Rocky Marciano underachieve?
No, he was 49-0. He was a world champion. He's regarded as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. How's that underachieving?
He didn't get.
If 50. Anything, he overachieved.
But you understand what I'm saying. You're telling me that because his career. You're telling me because his career was cut short. That's a good enough reason. What I'm saying is, with all things being equal, if he would have been able to continue his career without it just being stopped, I believe he would have.
It's not me what to.
I understand. I know. I'm not kidding you. I think underachieving is that you go into that fight and then you lose you lose, you never reached your potential. I think he was absolutely going to be heavyweight champion. Everybody knew he was going to be heavyweight champion, and he never had the opportunity because of circumstances to show it.
Okay, so
that's all I'm saying. Listen, we're disagreeing on the
disagreeing on the definition of.
Yeah, that's all, man. I mean, look, we both agree he would have been heavyweight champion.
Yes.
Now, if you would have said to me, hey, you know, he did this, and then he got to the big fight, and then he just couldn't win the big fight. He fought Klitschko, whoever he would have fought at that time. He fought Klitschko, he fought Lennox Lewis, whomever it would have been, and he couldn't win. Then I would have said,
I don't know. I think that's underachievement too, but I don't think that if you go to prison and you have all these other things that impact your career, that also is underachievement. It's for maybe a more understandable reason, but it's still underachievement because you still fell short of your bar that most people knew you were capable of reaching.
Right. I mean, you understand what I'm saying. We're agreeing that he was going to be heavyweight champion.
Yes.
And it's just, you know, the life circumstances that prevented it, regardless of fault. Okay. Because there's also a question about that too.
Yes.
You know, and I don't want to get into that,
but that, like I said, that part doesn't matter
because if for whatever reason it makes it even that much more unfair.
Right, but underachievement is not about fairness, though. That's the thing about it.
I mean, not fulfilling.
Because because you underachieve doesn't mean it's your fault, right? Because underachievement is not a fault; it's a fact.
But the way I'm taking it is that he underachieved by not performing up to his abilities. That's how I'm kind of defining it.
It's almost like this. It's almost like consistent with the way people evaluate a draft bust. Right. So Greg Oden, drafted #1 overall by the Portland Trailblazers 2007. Kevin Durant goes #2. Most people consider Greg Oden one of the biggest busts in NBA history. Now, Greg Oden kept getting hurt. Then because he kept getting hurt, depression set in, he became an alcoholic, a whole bunch of other horrible stuff happened. He's okay now, but this is what happened.
But he underachieved.
And he's a bust. I could easily say, I understand why you got hurt. Of course you got hurt. But some people dare say, and I want to fight them every time they say it, they try to talk about Derrick Rose, like Derrick Rose is an underachiever or a bust.
But it's how people define it. Did Chicago win a world title with him?
No, they didn't.
So that's how some people might define it.
And that's stupid, but it's okay. It's okay.
And what I'm saying is Ike was basically taken out of
about Derrick Rose.
What I'm saying is this, Ike wasn't taken out due to injury. He wasn't taken,
you can make the argument that that mental health is an injury because the brain is a part of your body. It's a muscle.
But we don't know the circumstances of what really happened.
Well, we do know that he suffered from mental health issues. We do know that. Doesn't matter what caused it.
Right.
It is.
Okay. So I mean, look, I like to see what other people think.
I do too. Because
I like examples where people started a career, they were highly touted, they were having success, and then they never reached their potential.
Yes. Well,
that's how I'm defining underachieving. Like your kid's smart, but he gets B's instead of A's. That's like underachieving, even though he's doing well.
Why are you talking about my son?
Your son gets A's. Junior gets A's. But you know what I'm saying. Listen, you know what I'm saying. I just
took the championship. I'm the funniest guy on the show now. So
okay.
So all right, Ricardo Williams.
Right.
I cannot dispute that. I totally think that I actually, proof that has validity. I didn't even think about him. His name didn't even cross my mind. And if you consider how much respect he got coming out of the Olympics, and that was still at a time when you were a United States Olympian, you were thought automatically to be a future world champion. That was just the way it was. So that kind of got created back with Sugar Ray Leonard, that time period. And then of course, 84 is the greatest Olympic boxing team ever. Vander Holyfield.
88 wasn't so bad either.
88 wasn't bad, but 84 is just something
the best.
Altogether different, so it just kept going that way. And then slowly but surely it started to lose its luster.
Yeah.
And I think Ricardo Williams' underachievement is part of that. Because had he become what was expected of him, then we would have seen that tradition still being carried on with him, but it didn't happen. Right. So I 100% agree with that. You see how I can say, Peter, you're right. You know, I don't think I've ever heard you say, Brian, you're right. You should say that.
Only off air.
Never, especially not there.
I'm gonna screenshot text messages.
You should, because
we'll share them on the next show.
We should, because I don't ever remember.
Brian, I love you.
That's not, you're right.
And you're right sometimes.
Okay, thanks. All right. Well, that is all we have for you today. If you are digging this, you need to make sure that you hit that subscribe button for sure, for more content, more championship rounds, more spirited debates between me and the Quaker Oats man, aka Peter Kahn. I appreciate you watching. As always, for my man Peter Kahn, God bless and peace.